A decade seems like a long time, but in the gaming world, it's not that long. Tons of stuff comes and goes every single year. Some of it's really bad, but some of it's really, really good. That's why we're going to take a little bit of a trip down memory lane for the last decade. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on gameranx, the 20 best games between 2015 and 2025. Just a quick disclaimer before we get going. This list is not in a particular order. We are not ranking these games. I know, we are a game ranking channel. Starting off with number 20, it's Red Dead Redemption 2. The further away we get from RDR2, the more apparent it becomes that this game is kind of a miracle. It came out 8 years ago, and there really has not been any open world game that has matched the ambition on display here. The game tells a totally insane, sprawling narrative that defies video game storytelling conventions and sets it in a world where credibility, sincerity, genuineness, whatever you want to call it. Alyx, the other guy that worked on this particular video, he wrote verisimilitude. I provided enough other words in case that one is not one you regularly use. It is certainly not one I regularly use. We love Eric. He's a talented writer. He's one of the two guys that I do the Falcon Show with on Saturdays, which you can listen to by becoming a member down below. I know a little early to plug something, but man, verisimilitude.
Out of the way, please. Howdy, fellers.
Verisimilitude is king in Red Dead Redemption 2, guys. It's a slow game. The dedicated to realistic animations means that movement can feel unresponsive at times. It's not snappy and fast-paced like the first game. You're forced to take your time and really soak in the atmosphere of the world. It's a game that can be very frustrating, but its best moments are quiet and meditative and beautiful. The design of the open world deserves special attention. It's got a ton of lived-in detail, absolutely gigantic. There is no other open world game that has made one as immersive as this one. It is a remarkable game. That only a developer with carte blanche to do whatever the hell they want and a blank check to do it could ever make. I know I already hit you with a prompt, but I'm gonna get this one out of the way. If you don't have notifications enabled, that's a really good way to see our videos. We do have people tell us that they don't get recommended our videos despite being subscribed. That's probably your best bet. It's also doing us a huge solid, and we hope it helps you see some stuff you want to see. Thanks a lot for enabling notifications. Let's get back to the video. And number 19 is The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. This one came out right at the cutoff point, 2015. Doesn't feel that old at all, though. It still looks exceptional and is still one of the standout RPGs, not just of its era, but of all time. This game was a massive step forward for CD Projekt Red. Their last game was Witcher 2, which is tiny and very janky compared to this one. It's almost unfathomable that that studio was able to make this game as huge and packed as content as it is.
That's it, Roach.
But also at a much higher quality than what we were used to at the time. The game pretty much transformed the open world RPG landscape and forced everyone else to step it up. The combat's a little imprecise compared to a proper action game, but I actually enjoy it. I'm very used to disclaiming that the Witcher 3 combat is something to look out for, but in all seriousness, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just different. Again, it's maybe a little imprecise, a little goofy. I find it charming. Not as charming as the quality of the quests and the writing and the world design. That stuff is just like, it is impeccable on a level we never saw before this game.
Keep it together, Alyx.
And number 18 is Elden Ring, the game where From Software went mainstream-ish. I feel like maybe they were mainstream before with Bloodborne and whatnot, but not mainstream like they are now. Elden Ring is I mean, it would have sounded ridiculous if you went back 10 years and you told somebody how big Elden Ring would be. There's no freaking way they would believe you. But what's so remarkable about Elden Ring is that they were able to do it without sacrificing what makes from games so interesting. It's a genre that's usually considered pretty dry and dull, not necessarily when we're talking about the original developers' specific games, but Elden Ring is a weird game, man. It is far stranger, maybe any other open world game. I mean, there's a few other ones that have managed to generate the sense of awe and strangeness this one has, but at this scale, man, this game managed to be jaw-dropping without even telling a standard story. All the big surprises are in gameplay items. I'm talking about when you take an elevator and you find a completely new underground world. Mentioned that more than a fair few number of times, but man, is it a good example. You go somewhere on the map you thought was impossible, and suddenly the map is twice as big as it was. You find a secret that unlocks a new segment of the map with a massive dungeon. Elden Ring's a game that just leaves you with memories and images that stick with you. It's a game where the difficulty only makes the discovery all the sweeter, too. It's a game so freaking big, it's practically bursting at the seams. There's a lot of optional stuff that's not necessarily satisfying, but man, who cares? There's so much stuff in this game that is satisfying, I don't know what else to say. And number 17 is Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. It's a toss-up between this and the sequel. They both have their positives, but if I have to pick one, and I do because these two games share the same map, it would be ridiculous to put them both on here as separate things. So at least today, I'm going to go with the game that started all of it. Before Breath of the Wild, the Zelda franchise was in a bit of a slump, at least people perceived it that way. Previous games had experimented with changing the formula, like the overlooked 3DS title A Link Between Worlds, which, to be fair, though it did change some stuff, it also reused a lot of stuff. Still, there were people who complained about it being some kind of a departure. Those people had no idea what they were in for with Breath of the Wild, which was a massive freaking departure, uncontroversially so, but I don't think it can be understated just how big of a swing Breath of the Wild is. It's practically unrecognizable as a Zelda game. You get all your tools right at the start instead of having to acquire them from dungeons throughout the game in order to basically unlock the rest of the game. Instead, you're given just tons of freedom to explore, complete your tasks. There's no set weapon, at least at first. I mean, everything breaks eventually. This is cooking and survival, areas that are freezing cold, sections that are burning hot. There's physics on like basically everything. Man, is it a different game from a standard Zelda. And while it's a little disappointing to some people for the lack of some of the old games stuff, but I mean, actually all of the Zelda games are pretty distinct in of themselves for one reason or another. Like, a lot of people say Twilight Princess is literally just Ocarina of Time again, but I don't remember changing into a frickin' wolf in Ocarina of Time. Do you? Anyway, all of those games exist and you can go back to them at any time. I do very regularly, but there's absolutely no way I would ever not put Breath of the Wild on a list like this because it's such a huge innovation. It's honestly given me countless hours of enjoyment. It's beautiful in its own highly specific way. And while a lot of people talk about the lack of a Triforce, the fact is, triangles define everything in this game. I've talked enough about it, but like the world map uses a strategy of triangles to direct the player. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, look it up. It is absolutely fascinating. And number 16, the Resident Evil 2 remake. This 2019 remake did the impossible. It managed to both accurately recreate many elements of the original PS1 title, while also making something that felt entirely new and different. The obvious thing to do when remaking such an iconic title was to make it as similar to the original as possible, but for whatever reason, the guys at Capcom got ambitious. Instead of just a slick but inessential remake, like what we usually see, they completely changed the structure of the game. Now it's not just about wandering wandering through the abandoned halls of Raccoon City Police Station, fighting zombies and other monsters, you also have to contend with that hulking monstrosity that is the tyrant, Mr. X. This guy's the best stalker enemy they've ever made for a game. It's brilliant. He's aggressive, but he's not too bothersome, so he managed to be a constant danger while also not being a tedious nuisance, as long as you're not just hiding in safe rooms waiting for him to go away. They somehow managed to make a better Nemesis than Nemesis. It's why the Resident Evil 3 remake ended up being a little disappointing in comparison. Even this game isn't perfect though. There are some notable missing elements from the original Resident Evil 2, but it's easy to overlook that stuff because the things they added feel so transformative in a good way. And number 15 is Half-Life Alyx, the essential VR game. Even if you don't have VR, it's a game to hunt down and play. It's astounding that it's 6 years old at this point, still manages to feel like the future, simply because it uses the technology so well. There are flashier VR games out there, but nothing really takes advantage of the medium as well as this one. Genuinely a truly remarkable piece of game design. Nothing against VR, but most of the time it doesn't feel necessary. In Half-Life Alyx, VR feels truly necessary. If every game was as tactile and frankly exciting to just play, not even from like a pure thrill ride type of excitement either, just the fact that it does everything it does. And the thing is, this one came out when the rules of VR didn't really exist. I do feel like developers have a much better grasp on what does and doesn't work in VR, but games still fail to be as adaptable as this one. It's just a perfect storm of a freaking game. It was made at a time when VR seemed like it was going to be the next big thing, which, I mean, that didn't happen, but that doesn't stop it from being awesome. Alyx was cutting edge in 2020. Honestly, it's still cutting edge. Moving on to number 14, From Software's Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. The point at which From Software said, you know what? Enough slow, methodical shield turtling. I mean, it's not like they didn't do that with Bloodborne, and we'll talk about Bloodborne, but Sekiro is its own beast. The impetus for Sekiro was, of course, Tenku Stealth Assassins, which From Software has owned the rights to, and, in my opinion, a little bit squandered since 2004. Here, they clearly said, what if we did that, but instead of making a Tenku game, let's make another Soulsborne game. Of course, leaving the door wide open for them to make another Tenku game at any time. From Software. Anyway, this game was nuts. There were so many people who compared it to like a rhythm game in the combat just because of how rhythmic the combat is. It's not a rhythm game. There's no music. You're not doing it to a beat, but you do have to maintain a rhythm. It's also just a really well done setting and world and main character, Wolf, the shinobi out trying to rescue his kidnapped lord. Man, I love Sekiro. And number 13 is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. In comparison to this game, Final Fantasy VII Remake, the Midgar stuff, feels like a 20-hour tech demo, and that game is chock full of, a lot of cool stuff. In hindsight, though, that's what it was. It was a tech demo. They were building the framework in the first game that they could massively expand to make the sequel, but what makes Rebirth so impressive is that along the way they never sacrificed the fidelity or detail of the original, despite the game's massively increased scope. It is a bigger game, but it is no less detailed from the first. In fact, it somehow manages to be more detailed. It has some of the most elaborately designed and opulent 3D spaces ever created. Areas like Calm or Junon, which were pit stops in the original Final Fantasy VII, are these stunning cityscapes packed with tiny details and personality. The combat system is expanded, dungeons are more elaborate, there's tons of bonus minigames to screw around in, maybe even too many, but that's one of the only flaws in the game, and I don't know if I consider it a real flaw because you don't have to do them. It is a crazy impressive achievement in game design that is as maximalist as you can get while it's still being high quality across the board. It is, again, what my podcast compatriots and 1% Club members, what we all refer to lovingly as an irresponsibly detailed video game. And number 12 is Outer Wilds, an indie puzzler that has time loops, really complex systemic astral physics simulations, and I don't know, it's just one of the most charming and satisfying adventure games ever made. Super ambitious, could have been a disaster, but somehow they make it work, and it's not really like anything else out there. It's less about the challenge of solving puzzles, despite technically being a puzzle game, and it's more about learning the rules of the world naturally through exploration and discovery. It never just stops and explains how the mechanics work, besides the basics anyhow. It's a game where it's up to you to look around, to experiment, take notes. It's certainly not easy, but it is a very satisfying game once you uncover the mysteries of this miniature solar system. Honestly, it's a game that can take dozens of hours to even recognize that you're playing a puzzle game. A lot of the most challenging puzzles are based on things that are available to the player right from the start, and you just didn't know you could do it. A lot of games have attempted this sort of natural system-driven puzzle solving before, but I don't think anybody's really nailed it, with the act of exploration and discovery feeling super compelling, putting Outer Wilds in a league of its own. And number 11 is Cyberpunk 2077. Man, does this game perfectly exemplify what's different about the video game industry between 2015 and 2025. If we were just talking about the launch version of this game, it would not be on this list. But at this point in history, we're long past the days of a game being released and purely forgotten about. Hell, in 90s, games were getting patches. It wasn't always likely the target audience would actually be able to acquire those updates, but with modern digital distribution, patches are applied seamlessly and easily. While many games have ultimately been improved by patching over the years, I think few games have benefited from post-game improvements in the way Cyberpunk has. The important thing to keep in mind is that the game at release was not terrible, at least on PC. It was buggy and certain systems felt pretty half-baked. The game simply did not release in a state that it should have, and while I don't blame anyone for being bitter about it, the current state of the game, way better, especially with the big 2.0 update, the DLC. It's just a legitimately really good game now. Night City's still one of the best open world settings. However, the story's engrossing, the world building's incredible, gunplay is some of the best for an RPG.
Make it rain.
Just an all-around excellent experience nowadays. It's a shame that more and more we have to rely on these kinds of patches to save a game that releases in an unacceptably broken state, but it's better than the game never being fixed, which is something that happens too, sadly. And number 10, it's Control, as if you thought I wouldn't bring up Control. We all knew Remedy was a great developer, but for years they kind of worked away in obscurity, making critically acclaimed games that didn't really break through, so to speak. They squeaked by, more like it. Control was their breakthrough hit, though. It was well-deserved because it is an all-time great premise, married with their always solid third-person shooting mechanics. They were able to take their knack for world building and storytelling and combine it with a more mechanically satisfying game with an interconnected world that is beyond satisfying to explore. And what's weird about it is in some ways it's Remedy embracing more traditional forms of game design, but in keeping all of the things that make their games so interesting in the process, kind of the best of both worlds. Alan Wake 2 deserves special mention. It's not as much of an easy crowd pleaser as Control, but it was so audacious in terms of an audiovisual experience. It deserves a call out. It's maybe not the best from Remedy, but it took so many big swings that it mostly connected. You could call it their magnum opus, but without Control, there wouldn't have been an Alan Wake 2. Control is, for me, one of the best games ever made, and it's also why I keep saying I really hope we get 2 Control series, and that Resonant is like the start of a second series, because I love the setting. I'm interested in Control Resonant, but I definitely want to fly around as Jesse Faden some more and shoot stuff. At number 9 is Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Basically, Ubisoft looked at Assassin's Creed, shuffled about a little bit, and thought, what if we made this absolutely enormous? What if Assassin's Creed were 100 hours? It sounds like I'm making fun, but honestly, it's a good game. They did lean a little bit away from stealth, leaned harder into the RPG elements, dialogue choices, branching quests, gear levels, skill trees, even romance options. And I know a lot of people don't like Assassin's Creed Odyssey or Origins or any of the longer form Assassin's Creeds, but I think they just did an interesting game here. This is a good game. It's one of the best games, even, worthy of putting into this list. It's set during the Peloponnesian War. Apologies for my Greek pronunciations, but you play as either Cassandra or Alexios. You sail around, hunt cultists. Naval combat returned, and I don't have anything bad to say about the game. I feel weird, like I'm talking about something people won't want me to, but it's not like I'm saying it doesn't have Ubisoft bloat in it. I'm saying it's a very good game. It belongs in the Pantheon. The Pantheon was Greece, right? Right? Somebody fact check me on that one. At number 8 is Disco Elysium. This bizarre indie game feels like it should be one of those esoteric foreign films that only a handful of people know and appreciate, but somehow managed to find breakthrough success, and it ended up being one of the pillars of the modern indie games market. It's a game everyone and their fractured development team wants to try and make copycats of, but at least at time of writing, nobody's gotten close to capturing this game's unique brand of existential dread, combined with absurd inner monologue and quasi-open world RPG design that emphasizes non-violence. It's one of those games you can easily imagine how it could have all gone wrong. Writing could have been obnoxious. Actually, it kind of is. There's times where I want to tap out of this game so badly just because of dialogue. There's some weird gameplay. Honestly, there's a lot of stuff here that on its own maybe isn't perfect. It could easily have been an impenetrable game. The world building and characters could have been a lot less relatable than they are, for instance, but the game managed to take all of that stuff and put it together in this incredible way. I'm not gonna lie to you and tell you that this game is really my cup of tea. It's not, but I can easily recognize what is good about it, and everybody around me loves it, and it's not like I don't get why.
Advanced racist. How did this happen?
And number 7 is God of War 2018, another one of those games that took a massive risk to revitalize a franchise, and in hindsight it seems pretty obvious given PlayStation's general movement in a more cinematic direction, but man, is it kind of a miracle that this wasn't a disaster. Like, everything about this game is easy disaster. Like, who in their right mind would make a sequel to the God of War trilogy, some of the most juvenile, edgy, try-hard games ever made, to make it into like a heartfelt and personal thing? It's a really strange choice that actually kind of makes perfect sense. The added context of the original games adds a force of history and weight to the old Kratos we see at the start of this game that, by some bizarre confluence of reasons, works really well.
I thought you'd be bigger. But you're definitely the one. Long way from home, aren't you?
Besides all that, it's a really well-designed game that manages to be a really satisfying melee combat thing while telling a single unbroken story in a take. Like, there aren't cuts. Obviously, it's stitched together because it's a video game, but it's a fun concept that does a good job, and I really enjoy it. And number 6 is Hollow Knight Silksong, an interesting one because at the launch of the game, it actually ended up being kind of controversial because it was unexpectedly difficult. Those knee-jerk reactions led to the game getting weirdly overlooked at the Game Awards that year, despite it being an absolutely exceptional game that may actually surpass the original as one of the greatest Metroidvania games of all time. It's high praise because the first Hollow Knight is a remarkable achievement. It's an indie game that blows all of the competition out of the water in terms of size and freedom. Silksong is a much more linear game than its predecessor, but it makes up for it with much more refined mechanics. Where Hollow Knight was mechanically a grab bag of popular Metroidvania concepts, Silksong is fresh and focused. It's fast, nimble, requires a high level of precision. Some of the early game bosses are equivalent to endgame challenges in the original, but that doesn't stop it from being extremely well made, and the challenge is kind of the point. Suck it up. And number 5 is Baldur's Gate 3. This is Larian's Witcher 3, okay? But what makes it even more impressive is that instead of making a game that conforms to an already popular genre, Larian doubled down on the old school RPG mechanics in this one and still was just wildly successful. It does go to show that it's not the mechanics but the presentation that sells games. People want AAA production values, and with this game they got it in a CRPG. It is a beautiful game, it is super dense, and there's a whole lot going on underneath the hood. They took their systemic design philosophy from the Divinity games and pushed all that stuff harder here without sacrificing any fidelity. The characters are all instantly iconic, which is important for a party-based RPG, and the general writing is very solid, but what really makes this game great is how it lets you try every crazy strategy you can imagine. Sometimes it doesn't work at all. Sometimes it completely breaks the game. Either way, you have freedom in a way that you don't have in other games. It's something you rarely see in the carefully balanced world of modern gaming. This game just throws tons of stuff at you and says, have at it, dude. It's all the better for it. And number 4 is NieR Automata. Cannot be underestimated just how out of left field this game was, whatever. The original NieR was never a sales or critical success, but clearly the game's madman director, Yoko Taro, had a soft spot for it because he was able to somehow trick Square Enix to publish and Platinum Games to develop. It had all the markings of another game that would have been underappreciated in its time, but somehow it managed to break through to a wider gaming audience. It helps out that on a technical and mechanical level, it was a lot better than the predecessor game. The first game couldn't even crack 1 million in sales on the Xbox 360. This game has sold over 10 million copies worldwide. Well, the combat is significantly better. It's Platinum we're talking about, so kind of duh.
Roger, and thanks.
It's still far from a traditional game. It's super weird, has wild shifts in tone that go from goofy comedy to some of the most harrowing stuff you can imagine. It is a very dark game that explores a lot of difficult and complex topics, and it does not provide easy answers, but it's also a game where you play as a blindfolded goth in a short skirt, so there's something for all walks of life here. It's both extremely dumb and extremely smart at the same time, exploitative and meditative, constantly in contradiction with itself, and to me, that's why it works. And number 3 is Undertale. This game's been memed to death, and fan base hurts the game a bit by association, but man, the core 2015 game is one of the all-time great indie RPGs. Not a visual feast by any stretch, but the artwork's charming, the writing is clever, and the entire meta twist of the game is well handled, and it's clever satire of traditional RPGs and their mechanics. When you're trying to get meta with games, it's easy to go too far with it. On one end of the spectrum, you get physically painful writing with like Y2K, a postmodern RPG, and on the other you get Undertale, which manages to be both very silly but also emotionally resonant in a way few games manage. Its particular twist on RPG combat is fun and clever. Short length actually works in the game's favor. The follow-up Deltarune might actually be better, but that thing might not be fully finished until like 2029 or later, so I'm gonna say Undertale. And number 2 is Bloodborne. From Software's masterpiece is also Miyazaki's baby. It's a game he obsessed over so much that it gave the legendary director bad dreams. That's what I call suffering for your art. The game released on March 24th, 2015, so I mean we're just talking squeaking in on this one in terms of our timeline, but it marked the start of an extremely productive decade for the studio, who would put out just a string of winners. But I think Bloodborne stands above all of them, not necessarily in terms of technical quality. The game is actually kind of rough, has an inconsistent 30 frames per second, feels a lot less responsive than some of their later games, but when it comes to world design, scenario design, art design, it's peak, period. If they'd remaster this one, ooh lordy. It is also a game where a lot of the original context is lost, because now we all know it as a Cthulhu game. Although I wouldn't necessarily call it specifically Lovecraftian, because I'd say it critiques the society much more from a systemic perspective than an individual one than old HP did. If you don't know about his beliefs on race, don't look into it. It'll ruin a lot of things. Anyway, man, they do a good job in this game. It's just, the ideas expressed here are so strange. The atmosphere is so dreamlike and inexplicable. It's a game that, I mean, it's not scary, but it's haunting in a way that few games are. It sticks with you whether you want it to or not. And finally, at number 1, it is Fallout 4. So 4 years after the cultural behemoth that is Skyrim, we got Fallout 4, another cultural behemoth. And they did it in a way that really, I think, smacked people in the face. They announced it and released it 5 months later. It was probably as close as you can get to the Beyoncé drop nowadays. The game takes place in Boston. You're a vault dweller searching for their kidnapped son. You've got a dog, of course.
Hey boy, think you can find something for me? See if there's any good stuff nearby, boy.
And Bethesda doubled down on the whole open world sandbox formula that made Skyrim so great, and obviously it's what people wanted them to do, because people bought 12 million copies of this game in the first 24 hours. That's right, in a day, they generated about 750 million in sales. Easily one of the biggest launches the industry had seen at the time. It is not without its controversy. The whole dialogue wheel situation is not one that a lot of people were happy about, because New Vegas, actually I'll just stop there, just because New Vegas, I think that's an appropriate way of putting it. Still, I love radioactive Boston. It's fun.
I've been waiting a good 5 years for an outsider to come along and visit.
I do have a few bonus mentions because, frankly, some of them cannot go without being mentioned. First is Hi-Fi Rush. Tango Gameworks just created something super interesting with this game. It was also very successful, and I guess Microsoft hates success or whatever. It's basically Devil May Cry meets rhythm game. And it looks like Jet Set Radio a little bit. There's like nothing about that doesn't get Falcon into the fray. It's such a fun game. Seriously, if you haven't played Hi-Fi Rush, check it out. Next is Astrobot, a game that started as a sort of PSVR demo and expanded into a platformer that's just, I mean, a pure joy, pure PlayStation joy. I don't really know what else to say. It's not like an innovative game or anything. It's just such a well-made platformer that even if you don't really particularly love PlayStation, it's still worth playing. Next is Overwatch. Yes, Overwatch. Basically the thing that forced everybody into the competitive team-based hero shooter paradigm.
I'll be watching over you. The destruction caused by the Omnics here.
It certainly wasn't the first, but it's definitely the one that took over. People have been chasing the Overwatch dragon for years and years following this game. And I'm sorry, Overwatch is even doing it. Overwatch 2, which became Overwatch or whatever the hell happened there, doesn't stop the fact that the original Overwatch is actually a pretty damn good game, or was at one point anyhow. Not necessarily because it doesn't belong in the main list, but because 20 is the number we went with, and I think we'd be remiss not mentioning Doom 2016. Although there have been several Dooms since this Doom, I kind of just want to talk about the one that started the current Doom run. Doom 2016 absolutely bodied what we know about first-person shooters. It's kind of a boomer shooter, but not really. Like, it incorporates a lot of fighting game elements, combos, for instance, a lot of finishing moves, a lot of really cool stuff. Honestly, we could probably do a whole video just on how big of a thing Doom 2016 was in retrospective, and maybe we will at some point. I just wanted to mention it here because I love Doom 2016, and I really think that it needs to be mentioned. And finally, Persona 5. Yeah, you're never gonna get me not to mention Persona 5 in a context like this. Believe me, this is the Falcon's Choice slot. Released in 2016 in Japan and 2017 worldwide. It's not unlike previous Persona games. It's a group of high school students basically doing stuff in a mind palace-y type situation. It's different here, although barely. You're phantom thieves in this one, and you enter a supernatural world to steal the corrupted hearts of terrible adults. Like previous Persona games, it's part life simulator, part dungeon crawler, part JRPG, and school drama.
Not good.
It's just that Persona 5 is just the most stylish everything ever. Like, the menus, the music, the transition, everything is insane. There is no boring elements of this game. Even the boring elements of this game are not boring. It's also like easily 100+ hours. If you don't know what I'm talking about, like, just, I don't know what to say. Persona 5 is insane. That's all we've got for today. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. Best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription, so click subscribe. Don't forget to enable notifications, and as always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. Join the 1% Club by clicking the button next to the subscribe button. That gives you the weekly Falcon Show podcast exclusively free on Saturdays. We have a blast doing it. We've gotten a lot of great feedback from you guys about it. Thanks a ton. We'll see you next time right here on gameranx.